Welcome everybody to the John Elliott's Everything Emporium show. All right, and this is going to be my podcast for today. Okay, so I said in my last episode that I was actually going to talk a little bit about how to do haggling. So here's the funny thing, okay? I go to a fair amount of yard sales, and typically those are kind of places that you expect to haggle, and it takes a certain amount of finesse to kind of haggle because you're going to get the eventual no, and you may actually even piss off people sometimes too by trying to haggle. It's happened to me more than once that I've actually kind of caused a kerfuffle. I can kind of tell you kind of funny story. So I rolled up on a yard sale, and there was some, it was kind of like a nerdy sort of group, like they had various, Magic the Gathering and, very like Sailor Moon, things like that, so it was sort of very obvious what kind of yard sale this was. And, I rolled upon this item, and it was a bunch of Transformers from the 1980s, like the original vintage Generation 1. I went to check it out, and I looked at them. They were in decent shape, and they'd been played with, but they were in decent shape, not a lot of discoloring or actual like damage. And one of them actually was still in the box, but it hadn't been played with. Like, it was missing some of the stickers and things like that, and some of the missiles and whatever, were missing. And there were three figurines total. There was Optimus Prime. There was a Hotshot, I think is the name of the character. And then there was this big, like, Megatropolis, I think is the name of the character. And, well, first off, the woman that was there, I approached her, and I asked her how much did she want, and she said, "Oh, I think my husband wants this amount for it." And I said, "Okay, well, let me throw you a number." She looked at me, and she's like, "Well, let me get my husband." So anyway, so it completely changed from me having to talk to her to me having to talk to him. He comes outside, and he starts going on about how these things are selling on eBay, and they're selling for, however much, and, it's in really good shape, and the Megatron is the original Megatron, or, not Megatron, I'm sorry, Optimus Prime, and, and he's all going on about how it's worth this much, and I'm kind of going like, I don't know. I don't know that much about Transformers. I know a fair amount about them, but the number that he was listing probably wasn't that much. So, that kind of leads me into what I did next. So what I did was, I said, okay, well, let me think about it. I'll come back in a couple minutes. And he's like going, well, I got to go in a little bit. So let's hurry this thing along. And I'm like, okay, look, I don't do this just normally on a whim. Let me just think about it for a couple minutes. So I bought some other stuff. And that went really well. The lady was completely amenable to, lowering the price on these things. I go back, and the guy, so I've done my research, and whatever he was listing was probably the difference between the what people were asking for and what is actually selling for. So those are two very different things. It just, it wasn't anywhere near what he was asking for. So I'm just kind of going, I'll offer you this much. Anyway, he just sort of looks at me like I'm the biggest idiot in the world. And he goes, "Oh, I could never accept that." And he's like, "I've seen these things go for like 300, and when I looked at it, they were maybe the biggest one was maybe going for 100. And that was on a good day with everything. Everything still included. So I kind of pointed that out to him. I said, look, it's not that I'm saying it's not worth that much entirely. However, it's missing a ton of stuff. And the guy goes, "Well, this is the original one." And I looked and I picked up the Optimus Prime one, and I said, "Well, actually," I said, "this is not the G1. This is the armor up one, and it doesn't even have the armor. It's missing this." He just goes, "Oh, well, it doesn't matter. It's worth," and at that point, I think I just kind of went, "Yeah, it's really cool." I wound up buying Hotshot because he was asking still a decent price for that one, but I had to skip out on the other two because I'm just going, I can't pay that amount, not, and I'm not going to make money on it, because typically my margins are, for every $1 spend, I try to make at least $2. I don't try to go anything really less than that. But it's just kind of giving an example of like what you're going to run into, that people think their stuff is worth a lot more than it really is. And, and maybe if you're a diehard fanatic, just having it right there, shoot, you go for it. But I think if you're looking at reselling, to make any kind of margins of profits, it's just not there. So here's kind of my thoughts on having done this a couple times. Typically, you also want to strike up a conversation, kind of get them talking about their items. And sometimes they may tell you things like, "Hey, yeah, I've got more of this," and maybe they'll like you. Something likability goes a long way in haggling. I was in the military. I told somebody that I saw this uniform thing they had. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm in the military." I was in the military, and they're like, "Oh yeah, cool. My dad was, and he was in this. He did that." I said, "Oh really?" I said, "Really? That's cool." And the lady goes, "You know what?" She's like, "I don't even really want the item." She's like, "Why don't you just take it?" And I was like, "Oh, cool." It's like little things, and people strike up conversations, and it's a way to kind of get them to go, "Yeah, I like this person," So the other thing too is like anything else, research your item. Before you buy it, take a look at it on eBay. Like I said, that whole thing with Optimus, I'm sorry, not Optimus Prime. Yeah, Optimus Prime. It wasn't even the right figurine, and then the other thing wasn't even truly worth it for what he was asking for it. I mean, that was literally what asking price was on eBay. The other thing too is be reasonable. Don't lowball people. At least don't kind of get a feel for who they are. Sometimes people are just looking to get rid of stuff, and if you offer them $1 for something, they may just go for it just because they just want to get rid of it. And I've seen that with plenty of sales where people go, "You know what? I'm just trying to get rid of it. Just, whatever, take it." So the other cool thing, and I've done this too, is lot items. So pick up, go around, pick up what you want. Obviously do your research, pick up the items, and then bring it to them and say, "I know I could see this price here, here, and here. Why don't we drop the price on this item to this amount?" And then just see what they say. A lot of times people are just looking to get rid of stuff, or they'll just say, "Oh, that was my dad's," and whatever. I'm looking to make a couple bucks. So another one, of course, is smile, be friendly. Don't get aggressive, because you never know. You may find something else you want to buy. You don't want to go irritating the person that's there. If you can't get to the price where you want to be, just walk away. It's not worth it, winning, quote unquote, and basically paying way too much for an item. I know that we can get caught up and get the fever. Trust me, I've been there. But always just take a step back, right? And the easiest way out is just saying, "Hey, you know what? It's maybe a little too much for me," or, "Hey, let me think about it and I'll get back to you." A lot of times people are, more than happy with that, because they may still think that it's going to sell down the road. Another thing too, and this is something I've done, this is not really haggling, is let's say the art sale happened on Saturday, and you're there early on in the morning, and they don't want to budge on the price because they're thinking, "Hey, I got 8 hours or whatever, then I'm going to have this yard sale." Come back around 4. So, if it's on your route or whatever you're driving on, come back when they're getting ready to close down, and just see if the item is still there, and then offer it for it. Or come back the next day, because a lot of times people are going to go, "Crap, it didn't sell. I had somebody earlier on, and now I'm willing to negotiate." I've done that before, because I've seen items where I'm like, "Man, they are asking way too much." Okay, so the other thing too is, like I said, if people bring up eBay, it's hard to argue with that, because they will quote that price at you. They'll say, "Oh yeah, I saw it on this one." One of the counters that I've used on that, and there've been a couple. One of them is simply just to say, "Oh, cool. So you sell on eBay?" And, someone will say, "Oh yeah, I may," or I said, "Oh, have you had success on that?" Get them talking about it. And sometimes they may sort of start to realize that either you're a reseller, and that you actually do this for a job because of the way that you talk about it, but also, it may make them realize that they are not going to want to put it up on eBay to try to get that amount. That's another big thing I've noticed. People are just like, I don't want to put in the effort. And then sometimes, you can also say things like, well, I understand that you saw that on eBay, but I could buy it off eBay if I really wanted it off there, and then I could maybe get an even newer one. Again, don't try to insult people, but kind of feel it out. Sometimes people may just go, oh yeah, okay, gotcha. And then let's see. And that's kind of the big thing. Ask how successful they've been on there. And a lot of times they're gonna go, oh yeah, well, it didn't sell. Okay, well, now we're at a yard sale. And their mind's going to start rolling, especially if you start pulling out money. That's another big one, is just pull out some dollar bills. If it's 10, 20, whatever they're asking for, just start pulling out. A lot of times people look at the green and go, I want that, and therefore they're willing to drop their price. So that's kind of been my experience with doing yard sales, doing haggling. And again, don't be afraid to walk away. If it's just not going your way and it's just the price is just way above where you want to be, walk away. Don't spend money that you don't have to, even if you could still make a large profit off of it. I would not necessarily buy some just because I'm going to overspend on an item. So, okay, that's been kind of my experience with haggling. I think the next episode, kind of want to go back to yard sales. Just some other thoughts that I had that I kind of wanted to share with people and talk about my experience and the items that I've bought on there. All right, guys, have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.